There's a moment in every betrayal when your world splits into two. There's the version you thought you were living in, and then there's the one that was actually happening, silently, behind your back. This rupture isn't just about a single action, it's a psychological pattern. And the people who betray often share deep-seated traits that their partners never see until it's far too late. Psychologists describe cheating as a behavior of avoidance, not desire. It's less about a burning passion for someone new and more about a desperate escape, an escape from responsibility, from insecurity, from the parts of themselves they refuse to face. Cheaters don't run towards someone new. They run away from themselves. Many of us imagine it happens because someone found something better. But in clinical research, the truth looks very different. People who cheat betray because they fear true intimacy, not because they crave it more. This fear is called attachment avoidance. It's a defensive shield used by people who feel completely overwhelmed by real emotional closeness. They aren't afraid of losing you, they're terrified of you seeing who they truly are. So they hide. They hide in the shallow attention of someone else. Someone who doesn't know their flaws, their old wounds, their shadows. Someone who offers them the illusion of confidence without asking for any accountability in return. Often, they carry a fragile self-esteem, a sense of worth that collapses unless it's constantly being fed from the outside. They use validation like oxygen. Every compliment, every flirtatious message, every stolen moment of attention is a temporary patch over an emptiness they cannot fill on their own. And this is the part that cuts the deepest. Cheaters don't do this because they're strong. They do it because they are emotionally underdeveloped. In psychology, this is known as narcissistic supply seeking, the constant, desperate need to be admired or desired just to keep their identity from crumbling. The more insecure they feel, the more they chase. The betrayal becomes a grim, repeating cycle. Lie, escape, validate, pretend. And yet, the person who is betrayed so often turns the blame inward. They search for their own flaws, ask what they lacked, and question their own worth. But let's be clear, cheating is never about the partner's inadequacy. It is always about the cheater's inability to regulate their own emotions. People who cheat struggle with impulse control, with self-soothing, with emotional responsibility. They are terrified of discomfort, terrified of sitting with their own guilt, terrified of being seen as imperfect. So instead of facing that internal tension, they push it outward. They choose the shortcut: attention, novelty, fantasy, anything that keeps them from confronting their own damage. And while the betrayal feels intensely personal, it is profoundly psychological. They cheat because they cannot handle the weight of who they are, because real confrontation feels threatening, because intimacy feels suffocating, and accountability feels like total exposure. But perhaps the most painful truth of all is this: cheaters don't truly consider the impact until after the destruction is done. Not because they're incapable of empathy, but because in the moment, their desperate need for validation is simply louder than your value. The psychology of the cheater isn't about desire. It's about the avoidance of honesty, of vulnerability, of growth. And until they finally face the parts of themselves they've been running from, they will continue to hurt anyone who gets close enough to try and love them. There's a moment after betrayal when the cheater begins to understand what they've done. Not because they finally feel empathy, but because the illusion they built begins to collapse. Cheaters don't expect consequences. They expect forgiveness. They expect you to absorb the wound while they continue avoiding their own. In therapy, this mindset is linked to something called entitlement distortion, the belief that their emotional impulses should be excused because they were unhappy, confused, or not feeling loved enough. Instead of accountability, they choose justification. Instead of remorse, they choose defensiveness. Cheaters rarely admit the real reason behind their betrayal. They wanted control. control over their image, control over their emotional discomfort, control over the narrative of the relationship. Infidelity gives them a temporary sense of power, the illusion that they are desired, admired, important. But underneath, they remain the same frightened self, running from the intimacy they secretly crave but cannot sustain. This is why many cheaters repeat the pattern, not because they want more partners, but because they want more hiding places. But here's something often misunderstood. Not all cheaters are manipulators. Some are simply emotionally immature. Psychologists call this arrested relational development, when someone's emotional skills never matured beyond childhood patterns. These people avoid difficult conversations, bottle emotions, and look for quick relief when tension rises. Cheating becomes an escape hatch. For others, betrayal is fueled by identity fragmentation, a deep internal disconnect. They feel like different people in different situations. The version of themselves that cheats is not the same one that says, "I love you." Both feel real to them because both are unintegrated parts of a fractured self. So the question becomes, can a cheater change? The answer is yes, but only if they confront the root wound, not the guilt, not the consequences, the wound. They must face their avoidant attachment patterns. They must learn emotional regulation. They must develop real accountability, the kind that requires sitting in discomfort without running away. But for the person who was betrayed, the healing looks different. You must understand that cheating is never a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their emotional limitations. In trauma recovery, therapists remind victims of a powerful truth. Being cheated on does not make you unlovable. It reveals the other person's inability to love responsibly. Some people love with honesty, others love with avoidance. And the psychology of the cheater reveals this clearly. Infidelity is not a lack of love. It is a lack of integrity, maturity, and self-awareness. You cannot fix the wound that made them betray you, but you can choose not to bleed for someone who hasn't learned how to hold a heart. Betrayal may break the illusion, but it also brings you back to yourself.